Breaking news here from the Holifield Science Learning Center in Plano, Texas, where super animals are taking over the school. These animals all have cool and unique characteristics that make them unbelievable and super. Let's go to our field reporter Lisa Kaywood for more.
Our first animal is Camille, the veiled chameleon. Chameleons come from small forested areas in the mountains around Saudi Arabia. Do you know what makes Camille super? What is the first thing that you notice about Camille? I notice that Camille has eyes that he can move in all different directions. This is called monocular vision. This means each eye sees independently of the other, and it's up to the chameleon's brain to make sense of what each eye is seeing. Can you imagine what that would be like? How do you think this would help him in the wild? Many chameleons have a spiky skin on their spine and bellies. This kind of helps them look like a leaf when they're perched on a stick. They also have a special behavior, a kind of walk they do, that is supposed to look like the swaying of leaves in a breeze. So if a chameleon wants you to think that he is a plant, but also wants to stay on the lookout for predators and food, isn't it helpful that he can look all around him with his eyes without moving his body at all? Now, a lot of people see chameleons and recognize them as masters of camouflage because of their ability to change color. Camouflage is when an animal looks like and blends into its environment. While this does make them hard to see in the wild, hiding is not really why they change color. Take a look at this chart. These are patterns you would see on a veiled chameleon and their meanings. What do you think Camille is saying with his color right now? What do you notice about Camille's feet? How about his tail? What is he doing right now? Wow! Let's see that again. Chameleons' tongues are so amazing. Did you see that bulb part on the end that he hit the cricket with? We already got to learn about his eyes, making it easy to spot predators and prey without moving. How do you think his tongue helps? I think it might be another tool that he has to survive without having to move much. He can sit still in one place and have a nice meal without exposing his location to predators. But what about when he does need to move? He lives in trees, and chameleons are known for their ability to hold onto branches. In fact, if a chameleon falls down, that means he is likely very sick. But I wonder what helps him to hold on so well. Let's get a close-up of his feet. His feet don't look anything like mine. How are they different? Chameleons' feet are called, big word time, zygodactylous. Here, zygo means split and dactyl means fingers. He has split fingers, 2 on one side and 3 on the other, for holding onto branches. And on the end of those toes, sharp little nails to help dig in and hold on. What else might help him to hold on? Don't forget that tail. If 4 special feet weren't enough, he also has a prehensile tail to help keep his balance in the trees. Chameleons are so amazing, we could talk about them all day long. But we have more super animals on the scene that it's time to explore. Our next super critter is a blue and yellow macaw named Sundance, who's about 38 years old. What do you notice about him? What super abilities do you think that Sundance may have? What do you first notice about him? I notice his color. Did you know this big, bright, beautiful bird has his own sort of camouflage? But how can that be? He's blue and yellow. What could he possibly blend in with? Macaws, like Sundance, are social animals and fly together in flocks. A uniform color on their belly, yellow, and their backs, blue, can make it hard for predators to pick out one individual bird to go after in a big flock. This is because it is hard for the predator to pick out the body outline of just one bird. This is known as disruptive camouflage. Essentially, if you're a predator with good color sight, a lot of these brightly colored birds altogether can be confusing. But if you're a predator that can't see colors well, look at this picture of the colors dogs are able to see compared to what we can see. What do you notice about the dog's vision? How might a dog see a blue and gold macaw? So some animals, including some monkeys and jaguars native to the rainforest, can't see much color, meaning that the macaw does blend into them. In this way, the big colorful parrots are able to communicate with each other in what is kind of like a secret language. And it does seem to work, as their main predators are two of the only animals in the rainforest that can see color well and are big enough to take them on: humans and the harpy eagle. But a macaw's color is also dependent upon the light. Have you ever taken a blue feather from a blue bird and really looked at it in the light? Some of the colors we see here, particularly blue, are actually a trick. The feather looks blue and yellow in the light, but when there isn't direct light on the feather, it very quickly looks gray or black. Could this change in color also help dance? What else do you notice about dance? Look at his feet a moment. He spends a lot of time in trees too, doesn't he? Like Camille? Do you remember what these feet are called? Zygodactyl. He has split toes too. His feet allow him to stand safely on a branch and hold a nut to eat at the same time. And that bill, what does it remind you of? Does it look like anything you've ever seen before? Let me show you what it reminds me of. This pair of clippers that are made to cut through plants. Really, that's what that big bill is for anyway, isn't it? Cutting through nuts and bark in the rainforest. Do you think Dance has any other special abilities? Have you ever wanted to fly? Sure, you would need wings, but you would need lungs like birds too, because flying to a bird is a lot like long-distance marathon running for us. It's a workout, and all that activity means you need a lot of air. Birds like Dance have a ton of space in their bodies used just for breathing. Take a look at these pictures. This is a human person, and these are our lungs, the parts that we have that help us breathe. Now, Let's look at a bird and its lungs. What do you notice about the bird? Look how much of their body holds air. I bet if I could hold that much air in my body and my lungs, I would be the best marathon runner in the world. Someone that needs a lot less air is the sand boa. In fact, our next super animal can hold his breath for up to 30 minutes. The sand boa is a small snake from Africa that lives in dry desert conditions. They spend most of their lives under the sand, coming to the surface to hunt and breathe. Can you see our boa? While he does have some useful coloration to help him blend into his native rocky habitat, the sand boa prefers to hide his body completely under the sand. What do you notice about him? Where are his eyes? Does he have nostrils? What about the shape of his nose? Does he look like other snakes you've seen? I want you to look at him here. If you were further away, do you think you could tell which end was his head and which was his tail? Did you notice the shape of the boa's head? What does it remind you of? It reminds me a little of a shovel. See how pointy it is? In a second, he's going to show you on my hand how he gets under the sand. Let's watch what he does when we put him back on the sand. Look, he buries himself almost immediately. Do you notice anything else about this guy? The sand boa does have nostrils. You may have missed them earlier. They're right here. They are super tiny. How would that help him to survive? Right, he spends a lot of time under the sand, doesn't he? He'd have a hard time breathing with little bits of sand up his nose. Let's take a look at a few other critters that have something in common with the sand boa. What do all of these animals have in common? They have eyes and noses high on the top of their head. Why do you think that is? Alligators and water snakes and clawed frogs peek out of the water, and sand vipers live under the sand a lot like the sand boa does. I think having eyes and noses so high allows them to hide from predators and prey undetected, while still being able to breathe and see. And when something delicious walks by, another good thing about being able to breathe some under the sand and hold his breath for a long time is that he has an advantage over his meal. Sand boas can actually drag their prey under the sand and help use it to subdue them, and then go on to eat their meal under the sand as well. Hey look, Miss Close is feeding another one of our super animals. Can you explain to us how axolotls are super?
Oh yes, Miss Kay, what I can. But first, let's take a look at one of our axolotls. What questions do you have about this crazy-looking creature? What do you wonder about him? Does he remind you of any other critter you've seen? An axolotl may remind you of a salamander. This is a kind of amphibian like a frog or a toad. In fact, an axolotl is a kind of salamander. All salamanders are born in water, then most move to land. Axolotl salamanders, however, live in water their whole lives. What do you notice? A lot of times, people notice first these big frilly things on the side of the axolotl's head. These are special gills, and they allow the axolotl to breathe underwater. They're important for an axolotl to have, even though, get ready for this, they have lungs too. Because in the wild, axolotls live in underground lakes and waterways. This means, even though they can gulp air at the surface, they may not always be in a place where there is a surface to gulp air from. In these cases, they get oxygen from their gills. But wait, there's more. Axolotls can breathe a little bit through their skin. Their skin is so special that oxygen can actually cross into their bodies from the water and straight into their blood. Now, if that superpower wasn't freaky enough, axolotls and other salamanders are also able to regrow lost body parts. Lose an arm? No problem. It will regrow in a few months. Because of the usefulness of this superpower, scientists are still researching axolotls to find out how they're able to regrow so many different body parts when they get injured. But how is this power helpful to them? In their native habitat, they are the top predator. Amphibians aren't particularly picky about what they choose to eat, so really, their biggest competition and threat comes from each other. But not to worry. In the event that their brother or sister mistakes their arm or tail for a delicious worm, they're able to swim away without much harm done. Hey, I heard that you all are looking at different animals' superpowers in order to create a super animal of your own. Did you know that some scientists have already done that? To see, we'll go to another one of our axolotls. This axolotl, for instance, normally doesn't like light, lives in underground lakes, and is dark-colored and inconspicuous. But some scientists have changed the genetics of this axolotl to glow under black lights. So is glowing a superpower?
Hi, Miss Stokes. What do we have here?
Well, I have here an animal that can glow under UV light, and humans didn't have anything to do with it. As a matter of fact, he can glow or fluoresce naturally all on his own. This is the desert hairy scorpion.
Wow. Is he dangerous?
Well, he can sting you. As you can see, he has a big stinger back here on his tail, and it will hurt, but the venom of this scorpion shouldn't cause most people any problems. It's mostly like a bee sting. These scorpions can use their venom defensively, but more often it is used to paralyze small prey, such as insects, so they cannot escape. So why do the scorpions glow? Honestly, scientists don't really know, but they have a few guesses. Do you have any ideas about how glowing could help a scorpion to survive? These scorpions are nocturnal. Have you heard the word nocturnal? That means they come out and are active at night. One theory is that their glowing exoskeleton helps them to avoid light. What that means is that it helps them to be able to tell when they are exposed, say in sunlight or moonlight, and reposition or hide better in the shadows so that predators don't see them. This idea is supported by the fact that while these scorpions do have eyes, their eyesight isn't very good. Experiments tell us that they don't see themselves glowing, but rather that they can feel themselves glowing. So if that feeling means that they are in UV light and light is dangerous because it exposes them to predators, then maybe the glowing is a way for them to be able to tell that they should get to a darker place quickly. Some people have thought that maybe the glow could lure prey, though scientific testing has shown that most insects seem to avoid fluorescing scorpions. Another idea is that maybe the glow is a warning to predators, or maybe the glowing helps scorpions to recognize each other. I wonder if the glow is painful or confusing to nocturnal predators that are used to having to find food in complete darkness. What we do think, though, is that this ability to glow must be important to the scorpion because it is so powerful. Some scorpion remains have been found to glow thousands of years after their death. In fact, they have another unusual way of finding things in their environment. They are hairy scorpions, right? Well, some of those hairs don't just pick up movement or a breeze as our hairs do, but are also able to pick up chemical scent trails left by potential prey. It's kind of like having your hair act like extra noses all over your body. Insects leave chemical trails and traces on the ground they walk over. When the scorpion walks over that trail, much like a tracker in the wild, he is able to detect the trail and potentially use it to find his next meal.
Thank you, Ms. Stokes, for that glowing report. That concludes this special Super Animals edition of I Wonder News. Thank you for watching and have a super spectacular day.